from both currency markets and the Australian equity market. We are joined by Stan Chamu over at IG in Melbourne. Stan, thanks so much for your time. We know that Cypriot leaders have started talks now with the EU. They've dusted off and finished things with the IMF. Is this a positive sign?
Yeah, well, it certainly seems like markets are certainly in limbo at the moment. Of course, on Friday we did see a strong recovery into the close of the US session, as many anticipated or bet on sort of a solution for Cyprus come March the 25th, when the ECB had said they will pull that funding for Cyprus banks. At the moment, of course, we're on headline watch like anyone else. It certainly seems like there's a few different packages that analysts are talking about doing the rounds at the moment, including one that suggests we might see a tax or a levy of up to 25% on large deposits, and possibly up to 4% for depositors with over €100,000 in the bank. And this might see some of the smaller depositors of under €100,000 get away with no tax. But at the moment, no one really knows how it's all going to play out in the end. But of course, everyone always bets on a last-minute deal from leaders. Of course, this is what's been happening for a long time now, so it will be hardly surprising if they knock something up that prevents the Cyprus collapse and a possible euro exit. But for now, I think that the currency markets are certainly suggesting that we are pricing in some sort of a solution early in Asia. We did see the euro gap lower at the open. I think it was trading around 129.8 on Saturday, opened around 129.5, and we seem to have recovered some of that ground and started filling that gap. Of course, on Monday mornings, it's always good to have a look at the risk currency markets for a better indication of where sentiment is and what traders out there feel is going to happen in markets. But I think a lot of analysts feel there's no positive way of getting an outcome on Cyprus at the moment. Should they knock up a solution, it will probably cause an instant risk rally across the board. But the implications of depositors contributing to bailouts in Europe will probably start to weigh on investors' minds after the initial euphoric reaction, and this will probably weigh on markets heading into the sort of latter part of the week. But for now, I think everyone would want to see a solution, because if we don't see a solution, then that's an instant negative reaction across markets. We'll possibly see the euro trade back above 130 should Cyprus manage to knock something up last minute, and this will probably boost the rest of the risk space, with the likes of the Aussie dollar continuing to hold fairly well, including the pound. It's held fairly well still at that 152 level and continuing to power ahead.
What strikes me amid all these talks going on in Europe at the moment is the immediacy we're expecting from leaders there. I mean, if we remember back to the Greek debt crisis and how far the can was kicked down the road when they were trying to come up with a solution there, this all seems like it's moving pretty quickly, and the deadline is today. Why do you think that is? Why are leaders over there so keen to get this shored up so much more quickly than they were with Greece?
Yeah, absolutely. No one wants this situation to drag on, and I think the fact that the ECB is actually funding the bill for some of these Cyprus banks and the political implications of the Russian involvement and things like that, I think that's really raised the need to do this as quickly as possible. Of course, we did see Cyprus leaders jetting back and forth between Russia, Brussels, and trying to come up with something that's good enough to be accepted. And the fact that they have suggested that we need a levy on depositors and depositors to contribute to this, and the involvement in getting the vote through the parliament, and of course dealing with a population that will probably not be too impressed by such a levy on their deposits, will probably be one of the other reasons why they need to rush this along, avoid it causing further strain in the bond markets, particularly for the periphery, and try and get it out of the way before we see another sustained drop in markets, and particularly the European markets, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, we've got the Cypriot president threatening to resign, so that doesn't sound like a particularly good development in the talks. Let's go back to our market now in the open today. SPI futures pointing in the right direction, higher, but after all this news we're digesting over the weekend and this morning from Cyprus, do you expect a bit of a turnaround?
Yeah, I think based on Saturday morning's close, we were expecting a gain of around 0.5% to around that 4,992 level. But it's always tricky dealing with the Saturday morning's close for the futures. But judging from where risk currencies are at the moment, we probably will see a slightly subdued start to the session. Probably not as big as 0.5%, maybe even half of that. And we might see quite a lot of caution by investors should it turn out that some of the tape that is coming out of Cyprus is more negative than positive. Of course, we have to look out for the cyclical sectors, like the mining sectors, the industrials, the banks, of course. Everything that has to do with risk will probably be in focus today. And we'll see a binary event whereby we'll react positively or negatively, depending on what sort of solution we get, or no solution, that is. And apart from that, I think the defensives will continue to be the more favoured sort of sectors to seek safety in. Of course, the yield plays and some of these consumer staples and healthcare names that have been outperforming recently, they'll probably continue to be underpinned by investors. We'll have stocks like Leighton's under watch today after that news or development last week whereby their chairman and a couple of board directors stepped down. I think today we've got news that an independent director has been appointed, and a lot of investors will be keen to see if this stems the bleeding that we saw in Leighton's shares last week. But apart from that, there's not too much on the company news front. I think it will be a very big macro day. And of course, without any local economic data releases to look out for, definitely I think it will be all about Europe, and what happens over there will probably dictate how the rest of the week trades.
Yeah, so I guess the Cypriot leaders went into talks with the EU an hour or so ago. We have no idea how long this meeting's going to drag on from, but after that we should get word as to whether or not they've received the bailout. We should hear today, is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Stan, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Stan Shamu from IG in Melbourne there. Well, back to that